Hey guys, it's Matt from Amateur Filmies, and it's good to be back making another video. It's funny because we said that one of our goals for 2021 was to be more consistent, but then we immediately didn't make a video for a couple of weeks, but it's because we were moving house. And as you can probably tell if you've watched our older videos, we finally have a different background with our collection showing off. So we're really excited to have a different backdrop. We always wanted to have our collection on full display. Hopefully the picture quality and everything is coming through okay. We're still trying to figure out the best way to film new videos, but yeah, it's exciting to be in the new place, and we thought we would do our first video showing off our Second Sight collection. And even though we've never done a collection overview for Second Sight before, I did want to mention that over the next few months, Sarah and I are planning on doing updated videos of our boutique Blu-ray collections. Like, for example, we'll show you our Arrow video collection as of 2021, our Screen Factory collection as of 2021, stuff like that, because we have done those videos before where we've shown off our collection, but we've added a hell of a lot more titles since those videos originally came out, and I think you guys would be interested in seeing all the new titles that we've picked up because, you've probably seen a few of them in our previous Blu-ray hauls, but there are also a lot of rare titles that we haven't shown you guys yet, so I thought it'd be cool to finally show those off on camera because I'm really proud to own them. But yeah, let's get started into the Second Sight label, which we do have a few of. I actually really like this company. They've put out really quality box sets, and we still own a few standard editions from them, but the overwhelming majority of our collection are their box sets, which I have to say are top notch. So the first release I'm going to show you guys is actually one that I don't see many people talking about because, to be fair, I actually didn't even realize this was a Second Sight release until not that long ago because I bought this used off eBay. But this is Lars von Trier's The Kingdom in this great looking DVD box set. Now, as I said, this is a newer pickup, so I haven't had the chance to watch it, but I've actually been rewatching a few of Lars von Trier's films, most notably The House That Jack Built, both Nymphomaniac volumes, and I do plan on watching Melancholia as well. But Lars von Trier is a filmmaker that I'm really interested in, and even though I can see why his films are very divisive, I also really do like the way that he approaches filmmaking, and I do think even if they don't mesh well with all types of audiences, that they are still worth seeing, even if he's not your cup of tea, because I feel like it generates a lot of interesting discussion. And I definitely do want to check out some of his earlier works, and this is definitely one of his earlier works. I believe this actually came out in the 90s, so really interested to see how The Kingdom plays out. I think it's a mini-series, actually. Next up, we have the film Anna and the Apocalypse. And Sarah's a really big fan of this film, and she actually talked about it recently in one of her videos, and one of the comments I believe she made was that she could tell that a lot of passion went into this film, and I have to say that I definitely agree. While I'm definitely not as big of a fan of this movie as Sarah is, I still think it was quite an enjoyable experience, and just the concoction of the various elements that make up this movie, like it's a zombie musical that's set during Christmas, so it's pretty wacky, and I think it was a really solid effort of making itself stand out in a genre which, to be honest, is a little bit oversaturated, even though I do love zombie films, of course. I think if you want to make a successful zombie movie, you need to have something that sets you apart, and I think this one did quite a solid job of doing that. Next up, we have the Basket Case trilogy, and I adore these films. I mean, I really enjoy the first one, and there's something about these films that is so strange. I mean, the director's his name is Frank Henenlotter, and I've watched a handful of his films. I've watched Basket Case 1 and 2. I haven't seen 3 yet, but I really loved Basket Case 1, Frankenhooker, and also Brain Damage. I really love his approach to independent horror filmmaking. I don't know, just his ideas are so strange, and the fact that he's so committed to getting these ideas across on the screen, I find to be really admirable. And they're just really fun movies as well. When I'm in the mood to watch his films, I sort of end up pairing it with films from Stuart Gordon or Brian Yuzna. They're not quite exactly the same as far as, the tone of their movies, but for some reason I group their films in my mind, Basket Case and Frankenhooker, as I've already mentioned. Then I might pair that with, say, Reanimator and Society. I don't know. Maybe it's just the era that these films came out in. But yeah, I would say that if you like your wacky independent horror films and you haven't seen Basket Case, I definitely do recommend checking it out. You've got the Second Sight trilogy release you can get here, and I think even Arrow Video have the release of the very first Basket Case as well. So very strange films. Not going to be for everyone, but there's something that I really enjoy. So the rest of the ones I'm going to be showing you are going to be all Blu-ray box sets, which is awesome. The first one we have here is Under the Shadow. And this is one, admittedly, I haven't watched yet because this is actually one that Sarah picked up and she's been trying to get me to watch it for quite some time. It does sound really interesting. I believe it's about a mother and daughter who are trapped in an apartment during the midst of the Iraq-Iran war. I think the husband has gone out to fight or something like that, and they're basically trapped in the apartment. But I think there's also a supernatural element as well that makes up the horror part of this movie. I've heard great reviews, and obviously, as I've said before, Sarah rates it, so of course I'm going to watch it. Great looking release, and can't wait to watch it. The next box set I have to show you here is When a Stranger Calls. And I was really happy that we picked up this box set like a year or two ago whenever it was first released, because this, again, was one of those horror movies that I'd heard about all the time but I'd never seen. I'd actually watched the remake, I think it was. I believe it was a remake of this film, and I don't remember enjoying that one that much. But, that whole idea of, it's a home invasion movie, essentially, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen this movie, but, the whole urban legend aspect, have you checked the children? That really, really creeped me out. And having watched the film, I'd say that I was quite impressed. It didn't necessarily go the way that I was expecting it to. I think the first opening of the movie, which was quite long, I thought that was really effective. And then it sort of delved more into a police investigation from memory. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I remember it sort of caught me off guard with how the film progressed from the opening scene onwards. But overall, I still quite enjoyed it. And I think this release actually includes the latest sequel, blanking on the name of it, but When a Stranger Calls Back, it's called. I know that one wasn't as good. Sarah actually watched it before I did. She wasn't as impressed with it, but still, it's great to have a box set that includes both the original film and the sequel as well. Next up, we have the film Revenge. And this is a very intense watch. Very basic premise. The main character has a vicious act of violence committed against them, and then they take their revenge on the perpetrators. And I would say the most obvious comparison, if you're looking for another movie, would probably be the I Spit on Your Grave films. But I still think this one has its own... even though the premise of this is quite simple, I still think it does enough to sort of rise above the simplicity of its plot, if that makes sense. I do remember this being quite vibrant, and the one or two sequences that I thought were really interesting, especially when, without spoiling too much, she ends up ingesting this type of toxin or a drug, and there's a hallucinatory sequence, and I thought that was quite cool. I also remember this being very bloody as well, so proceed with caution if you are interested in checking out this film, but just know that it does contain some pretty strong themes and some really vicious scenes as well. So glad to have it in the collection though, and it is one that both Sarah and I enjoyed. This next one is probably one of my favorite second sight releases, and in general makes one of my top favorite comedies of all time, and that is In Bruges. This film is so damn hilarious. Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson and Ralph Fiennes, they all deliver just absolutely amazing comedic performances in this, and I just really enjoy the writing. This is one that I can just watch over and over again, and just the awkwardness of some scenes, the dialogue, the dynamics between each of the characters, just absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen this film, I really, really do highly recommend it, because it is just a great film. It has bits of drama littered throughout, obviously, but just the comedy in this in particular is fantastic, so absolutely highly recommended. Next up, we have the film Flight of the Navigator. And even though I have owned this film for quite a long time, I'm still yet to watch this one, because I did promise a friend of mine that I would wait to watch it until I could see it with him. So even though I've owned it for quite a long time, I still haven't watched it. But I'm really excited to watch it, because I did do a bit of research into the film prior to buying it, and it does look like something that I would really enjoy. And also, obviously, the release itself is quite fantastic, because you got quite an extensive booklet. I can see that it's packed with special features, and I was just really lucky to get my hands on this limited edition before it sold out. So I'm sure that I'll enjoy it, but hopefully I get to watch it soon. Next up, we have the film Upgrade, which again is another one that Sarah and I were so excited to add to our collection, because we're both really big fans of Lee Whannell, who's also a fellow Australian, and he's just done some great movies. Obviously he's responsible for Saw. Most recently he did The Invisible Man, which Sarah and I both really enjoyed as well, and so we wanted to cross this one off our list, and once we finally did, we definitely didn't regret buying this, because it actually is a really enjoyable film as well. One thing that I do think is worth complimenting this film is how it utilized its budget, because if I'm not mistaken, I think this is a smaller budget film, but it definitely didn't feel like that, because I thought that the action sequences in particular were choreographed really well, and the effects in general were done great. And I also think one, filmmaking choice that I thought was smart was that, it is a sci-fi film, and I think it would be easy for Leigh Whannell to fall into the trap of trying to do a lot of world building and trying to, do something on a really big scale. But he made the choice to do something a little bit more focused, and they gave him a lot of time to sort of develop the characters in a more meaningful way rather than trying to establish this big universe. So I really did respect that about the film. I definitely highly recommend this. A great action film, great sci-fi film, and again, just great performances all around. So really impressed with this one. I'm going to show these two together at the same time. First, we have the film Asylum, and then we also have The House That Dripped Blood. So these are two horror anthology films from the early 70s, and, I've already talked to you guys heaps about how much Sarah and I love our horror anthologies, so of course we're going to check these ones out. At the moment, I've only watched Asylum, and I have to say I did actually quite enjoy that film. It did feel a little bit dated at some points, but not to the point of, it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the film at all. So I do recommend Asylum. I think it has a lot of merits to it. I am excited to check out The House That Dripped Blood. Just as it goes, there's a lot of films that I need to catch up on, and this is just one of them. But if you've seen both of these, let me know which of these two you prefer, because I was quite impressed with Asylum, and I'm hoping that I also am impressed with The House That Dripped Blood. But yeah, let me know. This next film is Extro. And I really wish I'd rewatched this film prior to filming this video, because it's been some time since I've watched this, but I just distinctly remember it being such a strange movie. And I know part of that was due to the types of special effects that were used in this film, but more importantly, it was actually like the filmmaking style and just the overall tone of this movie. I can't really comment on it in too much detail because, as I said, it has been some time, but I remember it making an impression on me as far as how the film felt as an audience member. Such a very strange movie. I also checked out Extro 3, which Vinegar Syndrome released, and that was not as strange, but also, I don't know, you could probably give that one a skip. But I think if you're in the mood to watch something a little bit different, a little bit weird, I've already recommended Basket Case, but I think Extro would be a decent recommendation as well. But I also can't recommend it too strongly, as it has been quite some time since I've watched it. So take it with a grain of salt. But as I said, this made a weird impression on me, so I really should watch it again soon. The second last film here is The Changeling, and this is one creepy horror film. It actually stars George C. Scott, who's an actor, I would say he's becoming one of my favorite actors actually, because he's just done so many great films and I really love his performances. He was great in Doctor Strangelove, he's awesome in this, but he's also in The Exorcist Part 3, he's even in Hardcore as well, just a great actor all round. But the other thing that drew Sarah and I to this film initially as well was knowing that it had a direct influence on the making of The Ring. I won't give too much away, but I feel like if you're familiar with The Ring, if you watch this film, you'll sort of know what I'm referencing there. Really, really great, creepy, atmospheric 80s horror film. Definitely check this one out. So the last one I'm going to be showing you here is one that you could probably guess, although it is one that we haven't shown on the channel yet, as far as I can remember. But absolutely stoked to have this in the collection. It is, of course, the Dawn of the Dead box set. This thing is it's a thing of beauty. I'm so glad to have such a definitive edition of this film. We actually do own the Arrow Video window box edition of this movie, and that's also a great release, but this one, I can't see a release getting better than this. From memory, includes the novelization of the film, various cuts of the film. The special features are so extensive. The restorations are great. Just an overall great piece to own. It was a little bit expensive, but at the same time, I can see, where that money went. It's just such a great overall release. And I'm really glad to see as well that Second Sight are doing a cheaper version of this box set. I haven't really looked too much into the standard edition of this because I have this one, obviously, but it's great that, with a movie that has had such, a troubled history as far as getting distribution, I'm glad to see that, once this, has sold out, there is going to be a means for other people to pick up the film still as well. So kudos to Second Sight for putting out such a great release, and just absolutely stoked to have this in the collection. So that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you very much as always for watching. I really do appreciate it. Definitely check out Second Sight. They're a fantastic company with clearly a bunch of awesome releases. I really need to pick up some of their newer titles as well. They recently released The Nightingale, which Sarah and I are really interested in picking up. They have a copy of The Strangers, which I might pick up at some point if it doesn't sell out too quick. But they also announced the film Raw, which is a French horror film, which I've only seen the once, but I really did enjoy, so I probably will pick that up at some point in the future as well. Great company overall, and definitely pick up one of their titles in the future. But apart from that, hopefully we should have another video up soon, especially now that we're settled into the new place. But thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.